The origin of the Christmas tree is really interesting. It's way bigger than just saying it was a pagan thing. And the early legends concerning it were fascinating. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. Okay, so it all starts in 601 CE with a guy named Pope Gregory. So Pope Gregory sends out this letter to people who are basically missionaries. There are people who are going to be going up north, all over, spreading the story of Jesus. And he tells them, look, when you get to wherever you get, realize that God is already there. God's already been working and people are already trying to connect with God. And so don't just destroy their traditions. Instead, when you get there, look at their traditions and say, hey, look, you were already worshiping God. Let me tell you more about God. And then they would tell them about Jesus and eventually incorporate some of those worship practices into the worship of God in that area. Now, you know, when we look at this right now, it seems like cultural appropriation and colonization, and there's all kinds of problematic stuff about that, but that's another video. And so when the missionaries end up in really modern day Europe, they end up in a place where people are worshiping around trees or worshiping trees. The forest is a sacred place. They aren't entering a place where God isn't present. They're entering a place where the forest is the cathedral. And so the missionaries begin to look at trees and sacred trees like something beautiful and mystical and begin to tell the story of Jesus in that context. So as you would expect, not all the stories are great. There's a guy named Boniface and he challenges the sacred oak at Gossamer. This is obviously this legend and he tries to cut it down and it doesn't work. And then this like divine blast knocks it down and he uses the wood to build a chapel. But there is one of my favorite stories that is fascinating and beautiful, and I don't know, it really makes me smile every time I put up a Christmas tree. You could find the pieces of this legend in Pseudo Matthew, and the story is that all over the world, when at the moment that Jesus was originally born, all of the plants, all of the trees shook off their snow and sprouted new buds of growth like it was spring. And I love this because of the way it takes the Jesus story and says that like Jesus came to bring new life to the world. And I don't know, when I look at the Jesus story, I feel like that's really the core thing, right? That Jesus is trying to bring new life, new good things to the world. And so the other piece of this is that like the evergreen is this symbol. The evergreen is this symbol in that world before the Christians got there, that like in the deepest, darkest parts of winter, there's life. There's this like promise that the darkest parts, the most difficult parts will end. And I don't know, if you're in a hard time, that Christmas tree can be the same thing for you. This sign of life in the dead of the winter of your soul, of your life, to say that, look, even in winter, there are things that are still alive, that are beautiful, that are green. And one day, it may seem like it's going to be forever away, but one day, there will be life again. Actually, I traced this whole story from Pope Gregory all the way through to the modern day in the most recent episode of the Unbelief podcast. If you're interested, if you want to hear about like 20 minutes of this story, you should check it out. And of course, if you're looking for a direct way to access that, you know the place to go in social media to find those things.